Our two boys, Fenny and Theo, are Fenny is 11 months old. I don't know where he went.
This is Theo.
Oh, this is Theo. So Theo's standing over here behind Tessa. It's a little hard to see, I think. That's Theo. He's 6 months old. And Fenny, oh, that's Theo, sorry. Fenny's 11 months old, and I think he ran outside, but he should be back. Oh. Moms are pregnant for about 15 months, and when they give birth, babies fall about 6 feet to the ground. Babies are usually born at around 100 to 150 pounds and about 6 feet tall. That was the case for Theo and Fenn. They were both around 6 feet tall, and I think Theo was like 130 pounds and Fenny was about 147 pounds. Babies usually are up and walking in about an hour and nursing within 2 hours. They have to get up pretty fast, otherwise they could fall prey to a lion or a hyena, so they have to get up and moving pretty fast when they're little. He keeps wanting to come over and he gets shy. Theo is eating solids at 6 months old, but he's not really comfortable eating from us in here in this situation. He does eat grain and lettuce and produce and things like that. They both do still nurse from mom. They'll usually stop nursing from mom about 8 months to a year or so. Fenny gets a little bit of his nutrition from Tessa. This is Tessa right here. This is Fenny's mom. He still nurses from her some, but not very often. We don't see it much, but he still tries occasionally. Cece does still nurse Theo quite a bit at 6 months old. And this is Fenny right here, sticking its face through the gate to get some treats. He's currently around 750 pounds and 10 feet tall. Theo is around 450 pounds and about 8 feet tall. So he's grown about 2 feet in 6 months. So they grow really fast. When they're little, they grow really fast. Otherwise, they could fall prey. They can live to about 25. In zoos, they tend to live a little bit longer. There have been giraffes that live to 30. What else? Oh, ossicles. So the horns on top of their head are actually not true horns because they're covered in skin and hair. So babies, when they're first born, their ossicles are more cartilage and flat to their head. And they'll straighten up and ossify to their head the older they get. They don't really use them for anything. I've read something recently that they can be used for thermoregulation. The males also use them for fighting. So if you've ever seen males or giraffes do what's called necking, where they're slamming their necks and heads against each other in the wild, that's usually the males trying to fight for who gets to breed or who's trying to figure out who's the bigger, tougher male. So their ossicles help protect their heads when they're doing that. So the males tend to have like lumpy, bumpy, bigger ossicles than the females do. And they usually are kind of bald on top because of the necking that they do. Let's see if we can find some other treats for you guys. So giraffe are browsers, which just means they eat leaves from trees. So right now they're getting some willow. So they will eat the leaves, they'll eat the sticks, and the bark. They'll eat pretty much every part of the tree that they can get to. You can watch Tessa as she's eating, and they have these really long prehensile tongues. They can be up to about 18 inches long. But they can wrap their tongue around the leaves and pull every leaf off. They use their tongue and their lip to get all the leaves off. What else? Oh, their tongues are also dark in color. They're kind of purplish or blackish. It helps. Cece just stole that piece of her house. But their tongues are kind of dark, and the theory behind that is so that it doesn't get sunburned because it's out so much in the sun browsing on leaves. The darker color helps to protect their skin. Is this Theo? Look, Theo doesn't come up very often. He's usually pretty shy, so that's pretty good. You want some browse, baby?
Are you ready for some questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Declan wants to know, do giraffes ever eat meat?
No, they do not. But I know giraffes are strictly herbivores.
Evelyn asks, do they sleep standing up?
Yes, they do. They'll sleep standing up and laying down, but especially in the wild because they're so vulnerable when they're laying down. It takes them so long to get up and down that they do tend to sleep standing up. And they only sleep about 2 to 4 hours a day, and they don't do it all in one sitting. So they kind of take cat naps like throughout the day or night, usually standing up. But here at the zoo, they will sleep a little bit longer, and they're more comfortable laying down because they don't have any predators here and they know it. So they're comfortable. Look at Theo being so brave. I'm so proud of him.
Ava wants to know why their necks are so long.
Their legs are so long because they can reach the tops of trees to get to these leaves that they're eating. They don't have any competitors for the tops of the trees other than elephants. So that's why their necks are so long.
Mara asked, what are their predators in the wild?
Lions especially, but especially to calves, hyenas, any other carnivore could definitely take a calf, but to adults, it would definitely be like a pride of lions. A really hungry, motivated pride of lions could take down an adult giraffe if they were really hungry. But a swift kick from a giraffe could also kill a lion, so that would have to be really hungry to go for a giraffe.
Lyndon wants to know, what is a giraffe's best sense?
They have several good senses. So they have color vision, so they have really good sense of sight, really good sense of smell, and really good hearing. So they are prey animals, and even they are so tall. So they're like the watchtowers of the savannah. So having good hearing, sight, and smell all help them to sense predators. And since they are so tall, the other smaller animals will hang out around them. And if the giraffe gets scared and run, then the smaller animals will know to run too.
Anna wants to know, how tall are the adult giraffes here?
Tessa and Cece are both around 14 feet tall. Zoe is 3 years old, and she's around 13 feet tall, so she's almost full grown. They're usually full grown around 4 to 5 years of age, so she's almost as tall as the adults.
Oliver wants to know, what does their fur feel like? Is it soft or is it coarse?
It's pretty coarse, and they're actually kind of greasy. So if we do touch them some for certain training things. We do blood draws and hoof care with them. So when we do touch them, a lot of times we come back with like dirty, greasy hands. But they are kind of coarse.
Marilyn wants to know, what is their closest living relative?
The okapi. So I think there's been a home safari on the okapi. They have like zebra butts, and they're smaller and they're shorter. They also have the ossicones and the long dark tongue like giraffes do. So that's their only living relative.
Ethan wants to know, how tall is the building that we're in?
This building is about 25 feet tall, I believe. The doors to go out are 13 and a half feet tall, so the girls don't really have to duck to go out. But they're pretty much as tall as the doors to shift onto exhibit. Kimbo, when he was here, he was taller than the doors, so he had to duck to go out.
We got a couple of questions about why there is no white to their eye. Their whole eye is black. Do you know?
No, that's a good question. I do not know that.
I think it has something to do with kind of like the reflective ability, just like you would see like in a football player. The black all around their eyes, and then the black, having their whole eye being black, it allows for the sun to be able to the sun doesn't hurt their eyes as much.
That makes sense.
Avery wants to know, why is their tongue black?
Their tongue is black, but it helps to protect them from sunburn, so the darker skin color doesn't get burned as easily as a pink tongue would.
And Grace asked, are they smart?
They are smart. So like I was saying earlier, we do training with them. So we do blood draw training and hoof trim training. They are prey animals, so they are a little more skittish or flighty, so we have to be wary of that. We know that about them. And we know them personally as individuals, like what scares them, so we are always conscious of that. But they are very smart and very trainable, so yeah, they're smart guys.
Deborah wants to know, do they ever go outside?
They do. They love going outside. They were outside earlier today in the rain, but they don't really like being in the rain, so we just chose to give them access. So right now they do have access to the exhibit. They could go out if they wanted to, but they chose to be inside because it's raining and we have treats.
Neil wants to know if giraffes make any sounds or noises.
They are mostly pretty quiet, but they definitely can make sounds. I've heard calves scream for mom when we do like neonate exams when they're little, just to make sure that they're okay when they're first born and get weights on them and whatnot, and they will usually scream for mom, which is a really sad sound, but and I've also heard mom, actually I've heard Cece, I heard Cece roar like a dinosaur when we took her baby the first time. That was really scary. But I've also heard a young male make a mooing sound before too. He was on exhibit just hanging out by himself. There wasn't anything happening and he just mooed like a cow kind of. It was a strange sound. They don't do that. They don't make sounds very often, but when they do, that's usually what they do.
Isaiah was wondering how much they eat per day.
They can eat up to 75 to 100 pounds of food a day. Here at the zoo, we try to provide them with as much browse as we can, but we can't provide 75 to 100 pounds of browse every day. So they do get grain, a nutrient-dense grain, and depending on the giraffe, they get different pounds. They get between, I think Fenn gets 5? No, he gets 3. He gets 3 pounds of food a day, and Tessa gets 11. So it ranges between 3 and 11 pounds depending on the size of the giraffe. And they share some produce, some apples, carrots, and sweet potatoes. And they get lots of alfalfa hay. So they always have alfalfa hay. They get their rations of grain. They also get beet pulp, which they really like. It's something that we soak and put in enrichment items like puzzle feeders and things like that, and they really like that.
Katie asked how many species of giraffe are there?
Well, it depends on who you ask. There's been a recent study. The IUCN only recognizes 1 species of giraffe and 9 subspecies, but there was a recent study finding that there are 4 species of giraffe, and within those 4 species there are a couple of other, I can't remember the exact number, a couple of other subspecies, but we have Maasai giraffe. There are, of the 4 species, there's Maasai, reticulated, northern, and southern, and then there's a couple of subspecies. Either way, whichever way you look at it, there are 9 different types of giraffe, however it's classified.
Madeline wants to know, how long can a giraffe live?
They can live between 20 and 30 years. About 25 is a good age for a giraffe, but they have been known to live to 30.
Lisa wants to know if they're endangered.
They are considered vulnerable, so yes, they are. They are, and their numbers have dwindled in the wild in recent years. It also depends on the subspecies of giraffe and what part of Africa they're in.
Ethan wants to know, do they ever play with toys?
They love toys. We have these like bamboo wind chimes that I think are in one of the stalls over there, but they love playing with those. They like to chew on them. They like the noises that they make. We also give them lots of things that have food in them, so puzzle feeders that we'll put browse in to make them have to work a little bit harder for their food just to make it last a little longer. So things like that. They just like toys. They really like things like chains. We'll give them like short pieces of chain that come on different toys, and the boys, especially Theo, really likes like a short piece of chain. I don't know if it's the feeling of it or the sound it makes, but they do like toys.
Jack and Sam asked, how do you tell them apart?
Oh, that's a good question. Tessa is really easy to tell apart. She just walked away though, but she has like a pie shape on her chest, so Tessa's really easy to tell apart. Cece, well, since the boys are in front of us, we'll talk about them. It's usually by their size. With Fenn and Theo, it's just by their size. Like they're the 2 smallest on the exhibit, but the smallest of the smallest is Theo, and he also has like kind of a house shape on his chest. He's also got a boo-boo on his chest right now, but it kind of looks like a house to me. So that's one way I tell him apart. Fenn has, I forget what's on his chest. His ossicones are just very different to me, and that's what I look at on him. And he's just the second smallest. Cece's right in front of us, and she actually has a C and an E on her chest, so it kind of spells her name. And her spots are also really dark, so that's a good way to tell her apart. And Zoe in the back over here has a floppy ear. She had it, oh, she just went behind the door. She had an injury to her ear when she was much younger, so an easy way to tell Zoe apart is by her floppy ear.
Ainsley wants to know, why do they have spots?
It's good camouflage in the savannah, so it helps to.
Our last question is from Madison. She wants to know, do they have a favorite zookeeper?
Oh, this is a popular question.
It's Teresa.
I spend the most time with them, so they're really used to me, and I do a lot of their training. So I think that's. I don't like to say that anyone is their favorite, but I think they're just really, really familiar with